In this lesson, we'll learn how to soften shadows and highlights using a process known as dithering. Alright, so in the previous lesson, we finished up adding in highlights and shadows and also finished up coloring some of our line work for our fire hydrant here. Now, we're almost complete, but there's one thing that's really bothering me, and that's how sharp this line is right here where we've defined a highlight against this middle value. Now, in addition to that, it's how harsh this line of shadow is along this curved surface between the middle value and sort of this shadowed value. It seems to me that if this was a real fire hydrant, then there would be more of a gradient in transition. That would be a softer, more diffused shadow, and that highlight would be sort of the same. So let's talk about this process known as dithering. Now, dithering is the act of creating patterns between two neighboring colors to simulate the effect of blending the colors together. Now, this actually takes advantage of our eye's natural ability to blend colors that are close together. Let me go ahead and show you an example of that. So, in this rectangle right here, I have dithered the top half of it in between these three colors here, and the bottom half doesn't have any dithering. Now, if we zoom out on that a little bit, this is a very soft transition between these colors. They appear to be blended together, and while the lower half of it, the transition's fairly harsh. There's actually a rigid line between each of the colors. Let me go ahead and zoom in on that and show you what the pattern that I created looks like. So essentially it looks like this checkerboard pattern, and essentially you are always going to start on a straight edge by creating this checkerboard pattern, this alternating pattern. Now, the further you get away from the line between the colors, maybe the more sparse you want to place this pattern, and create, it really depends on how far you want this blend to extend. This blend is fairly narrow. I didn't extend it very far, but it's actually serving the purpose quite well since these colors are fairly similar. Now, this works great for blending a straight line. Now, blending a curved line can be a little more tricky. We'll actually work on that here in just a moment. Now, we can also create really interesting textures by dithering in more sporadic patterns. Irregular patterns can create a really interesting texture, and we'll actually look at that in a later lesson throughout this course. But right now what I want to go ahead and do is I want to come in and focus on dithering some of these highlights and shadows here. And then we'll move into creating some additional details using dithering. So I want to come in first and I want to really attack this line of highlight here. So I want to come in here and let's go ahead and grab our pencil tool. And we're going to come in and let's just start right here. We'll handle this curve here in just a moment. And I'm going to create that checkerboard pattern here just by filling in some of these pixels. Just like so. Now I'm going to come in and alternate that pattern by sampling this color right here, and we're going to create the other side of that checkerboard pattern. Just like so. So you can see here that in zooming out, we've started to soften that edge. It's a lot softer right here than it is right here, for example. Now if we wanted to dither that further, we could. All we would need to do is come up here and maybe just alternate this pattern just a little differently. Maybe we put a dot of this color here. Maybe we put one here, we skip this one. Sort of like that. And we could do the same thing over here. Maybe we come over and place this next dot right about here. Skip that one, we'll put one there, 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 and maybe there. So we can zoom out on that, and you can see here how soft that transition between those two colors, how soft it now is because of that dithering effect. So I'm going to come through here and apply this effect to several of the hard edges in color we have here, just to sort of ease that transition. So we'll go ahead and create that effect all the way down this highlight area here. Now, this is an effect that you really create manually, so it can be kind of time consuming. And to dither really effectively in really detailed areas of an illustration, it really can suck up some major time. So it's really all about how much time you want to put into the process of dithering here, though. So let me come over and sample this color over here, and we'll go in and add in just a few more pixels right over in here. And we'll come down here and dither these last two edges over here. So really it's the exact same process, you're just applying it differently. So we're coming in here, now for this particular line, we're we're applying it in the exact same fashion all the way down. But, if we were dithering, say, a curved surface, for example, we would be dithering a little differently. So we'll come in here and sample this color right here, and again come through here and create our dithering pattern. So maybe one more dot right there, and we got this one other edge right here, and we'll call this highlight dithered. So just moving again down this line. Very repetitive process here. So hopefully you can see here just throughout the lessons we've already covered on pixel art and creating isometric pixel art, you can see that it can be a very time-consuming process overall. There's a lot of hours can be spent really refining an image, getting it to look exactly the way you want it to look. I'll just stop right about there. Now I'll probably come down and dither maybe this additional edge here on the shadow as well, using the exact same technique as I did with the highlight, just softening that up. But let's just go ahead and zoom out and take a look at that. That looks a lot softer now. There's not a hard edge there that's really jumping out at us. Now let's go ahead and do a curved line here. Now one curved line that I feel like needs to be dithered is this one right here. This is a pretty harsh circle right here. Maybe we could come in and do a little more sporadic type dithering here, just in order to really come in and soften this up some. So I'm going to come in and dither this just a little bit here. Now we're creating sort of a regular pattern at first, but we're going to come in and just see what we can't do in order to soften this up some. So I'm just coming in and dropping in a few pixels here, just like so. So really what we're doing is just kind of chiseling away at the highlight that we've already established here using this pattern. And the one thing you don't want to do is place two pixels together or side by side in any fashion when you're dithering. That's going to create a much larger space that the eye is going to pick up on even when zoomed out. So we're going to come in and be real careful. Now having them connect diagonally, it's not such a big deal. But if you're having your pixels side by side when you're dithering, that's something you definitely want to try and avoid. So be real careful about that. So we're going to come in here and maybe dither just a little bit using this other color. We come in and dither sort of like that. You place a pixel there. Now again, we're doing sort of an irregular pattern here, just kind of following the contours of this curve, really trying to dither this out so it blends pretty seamlessly here. Now we'll just zoom out and take a look at that. So far it's looking pretty good. I think we've softened that transition up quite a bit there. Now there are a few other details here that I want to jump on and show you. Now we talked about there's some indentations here that run in really in a subtle fashion along the contour of this dome on our fire hydrant here. And I want to kind of come in and address those now. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to come in and work right on top of what we've already done, and I'm just going to kind of sketch those in. So they're kind of a teardrop shaped indentation, and they look sort of like that. Now we may just come in and fill that in for right now, and let's come over and draw another one over here. Now in looking at the photo, if you check that out, it's in the project files. You'll notice that we can see a total of 4 of them, while 2 of them out here towards the edge of the dome are a little harder to spot. They're a little thinner because of the perspective we're viewing that at. You'll notice that we do see 4 of them. So 2 of them are going to be fairly pronounced, sort of like this, and then we're going to have some over here. Let me just go ahead and grab a darker color. Let's go ahead and grab that really dark color here, and we'll come in and draw in another one right about there. Now we may need to come in and touch those up just a little bit, and I'll come in and draw one more in right over here. But now that we have these placed, we can come in and we can actually begin applying a little bit of value to these, really making them pop out just a little bit. Thinking about these are indentations, so let's grab this darker color here and let's kind of trace along this edge right here and create sort of a rim of a shadow. Sort of like that. And maybe we could do the same thing over here in a few places. And over here, we might want to place that shadow right along this edge right here. Let's sample that darker color here. just sort of like that. Maybe we actually want to grab this highlight color right here and run it along the opposite edge just a little bit. Maybe that's picking up some sort of a rim lighting right there. We could even come in and sample this darker color and maybe integrate that in a few spots right over in here as well. And once we zoom out, now we'll clean this up just a little bit. It looks like it needs to be a little wider right around in this area, but you can see how it's really easy to create nice subtle details like that after the fact, after we've already colored the object, and little subtle details like that are really easy to add. Now, I may come in here after this lesson's over and create some more indentations around the edges of these protrusions right here on the sides of the fire hydrant. There's also a little bit of a pattern here on this face as well that we could create, again, using some of these really after-the-fact type painting in of details. I'll probably also come in and dither a few other areas here as well as detail out our chains. But if you, in between lessons, before you proceed on to the next lesson, if you want to maybe practice your dithering technique and add some details to your own fire hydrant, feel free to do that. When we come back in the next lesson, we'll pick up and we'll talk a little bit about scale, and then we'll also look at a couple of tips that'll really make our workflow go a lot quicker when we're working on much bigger projects.